So in this video, I just want to talk about Voluspa and my journey regarding Voluspa, especially as I'll be releasing on Friday my telling of Voluspa. I just want to lay the track work, as it were, for my journey. So I first became aware of Voluspa as a song by Wardruna. Beautiful song. Like with all their music, it's, without knowing the language, it's just something that I connected to, enjoy deeply, and honestly, for the longest time, I was of the opinion that I didn't want to know what it was singing about. It's just that sort of embracing the music and letting it sort of wash over me and enjoying it and asking no questions. Obviously, it's a beautiful song, and that's sort of my introduction to Voluspa. Obviously, some things happened, and then I got Jackson Crawford's translation of the Poetic Edda, read Voluspa. Obviously, it's the first poem in the Poetic Edda, and again, it's just like, well, okay, that's interesting, blah blah blah, and probably like a lot of people, it's just like the focus is on Ragnarok and blah 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 blah, details here, details there, and it's the prophecy of a witch, of a seer, and again, not really thinking too much of it until I started recording Voluspa on here, and then sort of realizing there's a lot more to it and what it entails, the scene, as it were. And as I was going through recording Voluspa in sections, obviously I was drawn back to the Wardruna recording, especially as they did a skaldic version as well, sort of a back to basics version of it, and became aware that the lyrics they use are from the Carolyne Larrington translation of the Poetic Edda, which I promptly then ordered and have got now, and has become sort of probably my favourite translator of the Poetic Edda, for a number of reasons, which if you've watched some of my other videos you may well realise why or not. In particular, the difference between translating words and why they were translated the way Carolyne Larrington has done them as opposed to Jackson Crawford, I find intriguing. And again, returning to Voluspa, the way Carolyne Larrington's translation ends just really captures the essence of Voluspa. The now she will sink down, and it's that sort of realization that, going back to the Wardruna pleasant singing sort of song, in comparison, that Voluspa is about a seer being raised from the dead by Odin to foretell, to sort of confirm her prestige, if you like, by recounting things from the past, and also sort of foretelling what is to come in the future at the behest of Odin, who has dragged her back from the dead to perform this magic. Which, say, with the way Carolyne Larrington ends it, and the other translation I now have by Maria Kvilhaug, who translates it equally the same, now she will sink down, is just much more sort of dark and horrific. It's not sunshine and rainbows. say, and it's sort of continuing my path. And as I just mentioned, I've got a translation by Maria Kvilhaug, where she also includes the Old Norse, which has really challenged my way of looking at the writings of the Poetic Edda, and in particular Voluspa, to the point that it's, and as I've mentioned again in a couple of other videos, there's a lot of things where it's just sort of, well, okay, there's the focus on Odin and Valhalla and Ragnarok and that, but it omits things. And what you then sort of, my thought process has been, well, okay, and you listen to Jackson Crawford on his videos, if you watch them, and scholars will sort of say that at the time of writing down the Edda, the Poetic Edda, space was a premium. Obviously it's all handwritten, and maybe they're not sort of concerned with the fancy details, they just wanted the basics to record it for prosperity. Maybe they weren't given the full details, or obviously words are abbreviated, and the translators have to sift through this and make of it what they can. Again, looking at these multiple translations, there are decisions made by the translators to do the best they can with what has been recorded by the medium at the time. And obviously before it was written down, the previous medium is the skalds sort of reciting the poems. Maybe, let's say, with Wardruna sort of playing it on the one instrument, there was a way of delivering Voluspa to an audience that has been limited by the mediums available. And for me, I then, in modern day, looking at, well, sort of, how would this translate to sort of drama or filming it, especially with, say, modern day CGI and that, and how do you set the scene? What is the scene? Because obviously in a section of Voluspa we've got sort of talk of Odin prepping the body to raise it up, and then the series talking the prophecies or the histories. But there's a whole sort of visual arena that you either left to imagine, or maybe not fill in the blanks, you just think of it as a poem. Whereas for me, and with what I'll be releasing on Friday, is sort of telling it in a way that's sort of embellishing and building on the themes that are suggested around it, such as the opening verse is calling to attention all of mankind. That's big. It's just like, this is sort of the opening of the Poetic Edda, says to the tribes of Heimdalla or whatever, pay attention, you need to listen to this. And this is Odin's doing. So he wants us all to pay attention to what is being said by the seer. So I'm looking at, well, why, where, how, the details around it, and that's what I will be delivering on Friday in the form of a story. It's not going to be poetry. Obviously, I'm including what I can, let's say, all the details of Voluspa as a poem are included in the story, and I'm being very careful not to sort of take the words that have been written by the various translators, because I wanted to sort of rejig it so that it's telling the story with slightly different ways. So that's what I'll be releasing on Friday. That's my journey to get to this point. Obviously, I've written the story. My wife has proofread sort of the draft. The next couple of days I'm going to finalise it, and then I will be recording it in one go. It's not going to be in sections like I've done with Voluspa and its translations. I will be presenting it as a story and letting people make of it what they want to. I'm not saying that this is sort of what we're missing. I'm just saying this is a embellishment. It's a different medium, and I've got the privilege, I suppose, and the opportunity to set the scene and go big. To quote Wolf the Red here, says that I can go big or go home. And for me, it's a case of, well, I can add in details that are maybe suggested or hinted at, or can be. No, my hope is, if you watch the video and you can go, okay, that's worth considering. I don't think that's, let's say, a lot of people might go, that's fanciful, and that's, yes, it is. It's what it's going to be, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. Simple as that. So yeah, that is my journey through Voluspa, up to me sort of making an attempt to tell it in my own way. There we go. Thank you very much if you've watched this video, and I'll see you later in the week. Cheers.